Hello, everybody. We are now streaming live for the Big Club Dinner. Thank you for joining us. We are due to go on at 8:30. So we are just getting ourselves all sorted, but I'm not going to make you stare at me or Al and Sandy's beaming faces. So I'm just going to put a little holding picture up. We should be up with you any second now. And then we will be back with you very, very shortly to start the Big Club Dinner around 8:30. So thank you very much for tuning in so far. Hopefully this is all working. We will test it as we go. And then this will work. So hopefully this is all working lovely and beautifully. We've had a few technical issues, but we are getting there. Hopefully we shouldn't be too affected by it this evening. Everything's ready to go. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. You will see, I think, if you look at the screen now, there are 6 little windows. I sent everybody off to the toilet earlier. Don't know whether they're back yet. Hopefully they'll be back soon. But welcome, everybody, to the Big Club Dinner. Oh, here we go. Everyone's back from the toilet. Lovely. Thanks, chaps. Welcome to the Big Club Dinner, everybody, brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog and Scottish Rugby podcast. I am Cammy Black. And I've also joined by these gentlemen at the top table as well, and I'll get around to introducing them very shortly. What a night we've got planned for you this evening. Like any club dinner, we've got a number of superb speakers. We've got Dougie Donnelly, Scott Hastings, Rhona Lloyd, Hollie Davidson, and the 50th most influential person in world rugby, Squidge Rugby, aka Robbie Owen. And it's all in aid of local clubs in Scotland tonight. So please, this event's free. Please donate generously to your local club. If you go to the Scottish Rugby website, or even just Google Scottish Rugby, find a club. On the webpage, there is a map that will come up and you can very easily find your local club, link to their website, and then get in touch with them and find out how to send them a little bit of money. We're also asking people where possible, if you're able to donate to My Name's Dodie as well. So if you visit www.myname5doddy.co.uk or Google My Name's Doddy, it'll come up. And if anything you can donate, I'm sure will be greatly received. It's been a very odd season, I think, this year, we can all agree. There was a World Cup a few months ago. Can you believe it? It seems an age ago. And of course, many clubs weren't able to finish their seasons. I'd like to give a special mention then to Mar, Biggar, Stuart Melville, Berwick, Orkney, Haddington, Stewartry and Allens Glen, and every club that was top of their league when the season came to an end. You should be rightly proud of your achievements. In fact, why not go buy yourselves a trophy? I don't think anyone would object to that. You should be rightly proud of the fact that you ended the season. Nobody can take that away from you. You ended the season top of the league. And of course, the Women's League, they were able to complete their leagues this year. So congratulations go to, if I've got the names right, Watsonians won the Premiership final against Hillhead Jordan. And also congratulations to Heriots Blue for topping League One and West of Scotland for winning promotion to in their playoff final against Kelso. In youth rugby, Stuart Mel won the Under-18 Cup and Murchison Castle won the Under-16 competition. A huge thank you to everyone involved in club and school rugby in Scotland. The next generation of Stuart Hoggs, Darcy Grahams and Jade Conkells and Rhona Lloyds would be lost without you. Now, it's tradition at a rugby dinner to extend an invitation to the SRU and to the SRU president. Now, unfortunately, as people may have heard, Dee Bradbury has been unwell recently, but we're very grateful to the Scottish Rugby for putting up a guest speaker. And what a speaker we've got. We were hoping to get Al Kellock, but unfortunately, he's not allowed to speak in public because otherwise the bass in his voice breaks all the speakers. They actually have an actor who follows him around and dubs over his voice. But we are privileged to be joined this evening by Scotland's record point scorer. He was the record cap holder until Ross Ford pipped him by one cap. So he's now second highest cap holder. Never have the fortunes of one international rugby team rested so heavily on one man's laces. He was involved in famous victories against Australia, England, France, South Africa. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you, if this works, we should have a message now from Mr. Chris Paterson.
Good evening, everyone, at the Big Club Dinner. A brilliant initiative, a brilliant idea to celebrate the club game in Scotland. Difficult end to the season, obviously, but an initiative and innovation like this where you can have some resemblance of a club dinner across the country, all come together in aid of charity, is excellent. The upsides, it'll be a cheap taxi home, I'd imagine. And I remember from club dinners way back in the day when I was growing up, the first stop seemed to be the bakery to get a pie and a bridie because it was the only thing that was open. So you'll be able to nip into your kitchen, put something in the microwave and save the taxi fare home. I hope you have a great night. There'll be a lot of stories shared and a lot of smiles and who knows, a lot to look forward to in the years ahead. Congratulations once again on behalf of Scottish Rugby. We hope you have a great night.
So there we go. That was Chris Paterson. We're very grateful to them for Scottish Rugby for sending Chris to give that little speech for us. It's time to introduce the top table now. What club dinner would it be without a top table? And what a top table we have. We've got the usual suspects from the podcast event for anyone that listens to it. What we've all done this evening is we've all put on our club's ties. I've gone full Marius Jonker. Full kit Marius Jonker, and I'm wearing my other side, there we go, my Berwick Rugby Club shirt as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of fun for this next section. I'll ask the guys to introduce themselves. I'm also going to ask them to introduce the fictitious person sitting next to them at the club dinner. So I'll start with Rory. Can you introduce us? What club tie are you wearing, and who are you sitting next to?
Hi, I'm Rory Bolden. I'm the editor of the Scottish Rugby blog, and my tie, I don't actually have a club tie on. I have a Scottish Rugby Union Grand Slam 1990 tie that belonged to my grandfather. I did try and get hold of an Inverness Craig Denane tie, which is a club that a few of my friends play for, but they weren't able to get one to me in time. So I'm representing the whole country, trying not to be too Edinburgh biased or Glasgow biased, depending on who's accusing me of what this week. I'm sat next to imaginary friend is Daryl McFerguson, aka Dazat, aka Forrest Gump. He's a recent convert to the game, and so obviously the club have stuck him on the wing in a kind of UN observer role to pick the rules up, despite not being blessed with the pace of Darcy Graham or say Sean running in Treacle Maitland. He's endlessly enthusiastic. His preferred tactic is to scream ball every time the ball leaves the base of the ruck, and then immediately overrun both centres before they have a chance to get the ball, let alone pass. On the odd occasion, he does get the ball the only direction is forward in a straight line. He earned his nickname of Forrest Gump on the occasion that he carried the ball over the try line, kept running through the back of the in-goal area until he hit the tree line, all without grounding the ball.
Wonderful stuff, wonderful stuff. Al, shall we go with you next?
Yeah, so I'm Al Kerr. I'm wearing the mighty Broughton RFP. There we are. They were my club when I was in Edinburgh, a number of years there, and a club close to my own heart. So if anyone's there watching, hi guys. A great team. Recommend them to anyone who's in Edinburgh looking for a team to play with. We have a fantastic bunch of guys. I have the distinct pleasure of sitting next to Gordy McGruntington. He's a brickie by day, but an ageing loose head by weekend. Started out as a fullback, but as his coordination, speed and stamina has left him, his waist and temper have heartily grown, making him a perfect candidate for the front row. A 20-minute specialist, he always seeks contact instead of space, safe in the knowledge that he'll get a rest lying at the bottom or indeed on top of a 10-man ruck.
Very good, very good. Sandy, let's have you. What tie are you wearing and who are you sitting next to?
I have the old Lothian and Borders Police Rugby Club.
Wonderful.
A club that obviously ceased to exist with the advent of Police Scotland, but very fond memories of playing many days and many Wednesdays for the police side. I've got Sandy's here. Hello, yeah. I've got Mackenzie Black sitting next to me. Mackenzie plays number 8 for West Hailsham Rugby Club, who are in East Division 1. Don't know. Mackenzie's a New Zealander who was invited to come to Scotland to play for the Hales by the president, who also employs him in his bathroom fitting business. And he learned about his availability from a cousin who lives in Dunedin that knew that Mackenzie was looking for a sharp exit from New Zealand, from what he wouldn't quite say. He's named after All Blacks 15 Damien Mackenzie and is in fact distantly related to him on his mother's side. However, unlike the diminutive fullback, he's 6'7", has hands like shovels, and is actually a terrible rugby player. He is, however, hard as nails and adds considerable weight to the forward pack, who are otherwise seriously underpowered. Give him the ball in the 5-metre channel, and as long as he shovels, don't let him down, he will score. For a big man, he's a lightweight, and he'll be out the back being sick before the dessert is served. But for all his attributes, he is not Scots qualified.
Very good, very good. Ian Hay, what tie? You've got a number of ties tonight, Ian.
I do. I've got more costume changes to do than Beyonce. But at the moment, I am wearing a Howe Fife tie donated to me by Johnny McGinty. He's asked if I could give a shout out to well done to Giggs on becoming president. He's glad to see the First and Crusaders back to training, and hopefully his vets team, the Knights, will be back next week. So this is my first tie of the night. How Fife, home of the Horn brothers, of course, and how could I knock down a chance to represent Hornito? Speaking of which, I'm sitting here with one of our more travelled guests. It's a young South African named Faf de Wigglesworth Pichot. He's a chippy young scrum half who's here on a student exchange programme, and he's been training with the Glasgow High Blindside Academy team. Faf is a descendant of Sir Reginald St John Wigglesworth Pichot. Sorry, that's him. He was former UK ambassador to Argentina. Following some unpleasantness with the locals, as his grandfather used to say in the 80s, the family moved to South Africa when Faf's father, Willem, was just a young buck. Somewhat prophetically.
I've got a problem with Ian's dog. Is that your dog, Ian?
No, it's scrum half, isn't it? Faf started playing at age 9 and was earmarked to wear the same shirt number. His former 8th grade coach, Charles Smith Buchanan, recalled, "He's a mouthy wee hole of a boy. He'll make a great scrum half." As I like to do, you might know, I like to ask 5 random questions. So I've got Faf's answers in this envelope here. First off is the classic flake or twirl. He's gone flake.
Of course.
Then favourite podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. It's a bizarre one. Favourite food is beef. Be roasted, pan fried, or biltong. Well, he's South African, Argentine, British, so a good mix there. Favourite players, Joost van der Westhuizen, and his favourite actors are Mel Gibson and Charlize Theron.
Very good, very good. I like the attention to detail there, Ian. John.
Hi everyone. I am currently sitting here in my Butte, well, I say my Butte Rugby Club tie, a donated Butte Rugby Club tie. So again, a big shout out to Kevin Smith for sending that up from deepest, darkest Englandshire. And tonight, I'm quite honoured tonight. Sitting with me tonight, I have Tommy Gambaccini. So Tommy, or Tommaso, as he insists on being called, is the current open side for the Cromarty Dolphins RFC. So no one knows how or why he's ended up in the middle of nowhere, but rumours regarding his previous life are rife, with rogue financial trader and side street bookie the current favourites. All anyone knows is he left the city in a hurry and is often seen talking to folks in large coats who seem to know very little about rugby, although to be honest, these characters seem pretty standard across most clubs. He weighs in at a whopping 5'3" and 9 stone, but more than makes up for this with his furious temper and uncanny ability to convince referees that the decision needs reviewing. Off the field, Tommaso leads a quiet life, enjoying traditional Sicilian cuisine, landscape gardening, and caring for his cockapoos, Vito, Fredo, Sonny, and Michael.
A fine character to be beside John.
Very, very fine, and you will not hear me say a bad word about him all evening.
I know, despite getting to choose who I'm sitting beside, I'm not really keen on my person who I'm sitting next to. I'm sitting next to TB from Flintstanians FPs. Playing rugby is more of a fashion statement and a networking opportunity than a leisure pursuit. He mainly joined the club so he could get the tie. He plays at flanker, but he's never knowingly taken contact, and is usually found flapping his arms at thin air whenever a covering tackle is needed. He insists on covering the wing, both in attack and defence, despite having no pace whatsoever. He does a rugby podcast and will ask you questions about it at training to make sure you've listened. He had one unsuccessful attempt at stand-up and is going to spend the entire evening explaining to me why you just can't tell jokes anymore, whilst also trying to tell me why his dad can get me a really good deal if I ever sell my house through his dad's estate agents. So I don't know why I've done that to myself. I could have created any character, but I've gone with TB. So hopefully that's a bit of fun for you all. What we're going to do in between speeches, we're going to have a quiz. So I've split the guys into 2 teams. We've got, I know it's worked out really well on the screen as well. We've got Rory, Al and Sandy are representing the regions of Caledonia and Edinburgh in the east. And then for west of Scotland, Glasgow and the south, we have Ian Hay and John Anderson. So please feel free to pick your sides accordingly and you can take part in the quiz. First, though, we're going to go to our next speaker of the evening. And I think, if I've got my notes right, I ask Al, can you introduce our next speaker, please?
Of course, thanks, Cammy. So, look, our next speaker started life as a scrum half who was known as Speed Bump by her teammates. A career ended, unfortunately, by injury did not turn her away from the game, and instead she reached for the cards and a whistle. The last few years have seen her globe-trotting, refereeing at a number of prestigious events, including the Melrose and World Rugby Sevens, the Women's Six Nations, the World Cup, and the Commonwealth Games. So it's safe to say that our next guest knows exactly what she's talking about. Well, as much as can be realistically expected for a referee. It is with my greatest pleasure I'm pleased to introduce Hollie Davidson.
Hello, Hollie Davidson here, referee with Scottish Rugby. I hope you're all having a wonderful evening and raising lots of money for your clubs, for your society if you're a referee, and donating to My Name's Dodie Foundation. We all know that when we're at club dinner, we probably spend a small fortune on pints, rounds, raffle tickets, whatever it may be. So dig deep into your pockets and let's support our clubs through these hard times. Shout out as well to Scottish Rugby Podcast for putting this together. I think it's great that we're coming together as a rugby community to help one another out and see us through these hard times. I'd like to start by just saying I think it's really important to remember that rugby was played in 2019 and 2020. We will all have highs and we'll all have some lows, that we'll take into next season. From a referee perspective, I'd like to just firstly congratulate something big that happened within kind of our ranks. Was Mike Adamson was announced to be an assistant referee in the France versus Ireland game. It's been a long time coming, but he's worked so hard, and to finally get his name on that sheet is a huge achievement, so congratulations to him. A personal highlight for myself would probably being able to referee my first Super 6 game. When I first started refereeing, kind of once injury finished my playing career, and I turned up and people are forgetting or mistaking me for being a physio. Never did I think I'd get to probably like the top tier within the Scottish domestic game. So to be able to run out and do my Super 6 game was massive. And people put a lot of trust and faith in me. So that was probably a big achievement for me. I think it's safe to say that, everyone in the rugby community can't wait to get back out and play or referee. I think it's really exciting with the new breakdown interpretations that we don't really know how it's going to be the first kind of couple of weeks. Everyone will be getting used to it. And, after coronavirus, some players may be thinking, I'm not sure my body can go back to that, getting battered every week. Well, the whistle is always there. If you fancy trying something different, get in contact with your local referee society, and I'm sure that they'll give you a game in the middle and it can keep you involved. So on that note, cheers to all the referees that facilitate the game in Scotland. It's much.
We may have had a slight issue with Hollie's video there. So we're just going to see what's happening, waiting for everything to catch up with us. We've had a few gremlins in the system this evening, but hopefully that's worked okay. Do we think, was it jumpy for you guys?
Aye.
It was jumpy.
Yep.
I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to try Hollie's video again, and we're going to try a different setting, and we'll see if that works, because we know the Chris Paterson, we think the Chris Paterson video worked quite well.
Is there any words on the Twitters or the Facebooks from our people watching?
Nobody on Twitter is singing anything so far.
Nope, we've just got a couple of people getting tagged in the Facebooks, so people are watching.
That's good. I'm pleased people are watching. What I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and start Hollie's video again, and I'm going to try a different. We'll try a different setting on it and see if that makes any difference. We've had to switch laptops at the last minute, so it's not ideal, unfortunately. But bear with us. We'll get it right by the end of this evening. What we are going to do next is, while I sort that out, we're going to do our quiz. and then we'll do Hollie's video, and then we'll go straight into Scott Hastings' video as well. So, we're going to do a quiz along the lines of Shammy Dab, which was Dougie Donnelly's quiz show from the late 80s, early 90s. We've got rounds based on that. Because of Hollie, what we're going to do is our first round of questions is on rugby laws, historic rugby laws and current rugby laws. So, have you decided a team captain between yourselves, Rory, Al, and Sandy?
One of them.
One of them.
I would
Should
be
we go,
tempted to
Rory?
go with Sandy because
Sandy, age before beauty, Rory, right?
Well, I missed a bit of that, guys, so I look as if I've been volunteered for something.
Your team captain.
Okay,
It's not a
okay.
major hardship.
Fair enough.
Sandy's.
Right.
So we're saying Sandy's answer is final. Ian and John, how did you decide between yourselves?
Well, we decided we were going to like Warriors it, Cully and Wilson, although I've actually been Cully. I don't know, we're the same person.
You're co-captain. That's fine. You're same person. Double.
I mean, we realised that it took two people to replace Al Kellogg, so why would we move away from tradition?
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to start with East and Caledonia region. How many points were awarded for a try under the laws in the first international rugby game between England and Scotland?
It was like 3 or 4, wasn't it?
Was it one? Was it not?
One. Yeah.
Oh, 1.
I think
Yeah,
one.
go for it. You guys.
Can we steal?
Yeah, can I still?
I'll allow it for
hang
steal,
on,
yeah.
Final
Well,
answer.
Sandy's not given his answer
Come
yet.
on.
Right.
Final answer.
Final answer. I'm going to have to hurry you.
One.
Final answer. One.
One.
You guys coming in for the steal?
Nominate Hay.
0.
0 is correct, Ian.
Oh.
But it means you got a shot. You got to try at the conversion.
You got to
and
try at the
got a
conversion,
point.
that's
You got the
right.
conversion, so
Right.
it's 0.
Oh well.
That is quite right. So, Ian and John, you're in the lead with 1 point. Question 2, which is for you guys, Ian and John. Why were penalty goals not given under the agreed laws for the first international between England and Scotland?
Ooh, that's a good question. Any thoughts, Ian?
I don't have a Scooby. Have you?
No, that's a really good question.
Why would,
The laws hadn't been agreed. So the teams couldn't agree how many points it would be worth.
I'm fine with that. Either that or it was just ungentlemanly.
Final answer?
Yeah, go for it.
It's just guys, you got to come in for a steal because they're incorrect.
I think there were no posts.
Is that the final answer from your team?
Anybody else?
That's as good an answer as I think we're going to get.
I was
No.
checking Twitter and completely missed the question.
You were all wrong. It's because it was accepted that gentlemen would not cheat.
Oh man, I was almost right.
And there you go.
And
So
then
question
came
3
Richie
for
McCaw.
I think drinking out a decanter, by the way.
question 3 for
A subsidized decanter.
question 3 then for Eastern Caledonia. In 1932, players were banned from doing what at half time?
Tempted to say urinating on the pitch, but
Oh, I've no
half
idea.
time.
Half time.
What were players stopped from doing at half time in 1932?
Smoking cigarettes.
Nope.
30s.
30s, right?
32.
No,
They'd have been encouraged
I'm
to
gonna
smoke
have to-
cigarettes at that point.
I'm
Rory.
going to have to hurry you.
Go with Rory's answer because it's nothing else.
Urinating on the pitch.
Urinating on the pitch.
Urinating on the pitch, yeah.
Incorrect. John and Ian, do you want to steal?
We thinking drinking, Ian?
I was going to go with the smoking.
They would.
Nah.
Smoking was encouraged. I think it.
Smoking
well,
was no cool.
Broken leg boy, have a cigarette.
let's go with drinking brandy.
Aye. Yeah, half-time beers.
It's a good guess. It's actually they weren't allowed to leave the field without the referee's permission. Said this ruling
that
is
too.
probably more necessary for first-class football than school football, whereas it is inconceivable any boy should think to leave the field.
That's that.
How
There
dare
you
you?
go. So, Caledonia and East, the replacement of injured players was first allowed in 1968. In what year were tactical substitutions first allowed?
Yeah, whoa, it's Glasgow's question.
Is it not our turn?
Yep.
It is, you're right.
Aye.
Shocking.
Go on then.
I read about this the other day, actually, but I can't remember the answers. Sorry, can you just rephrase the question? Can I repeat it?
Repeat
Repeat it, please.
Easier to answer.
Yeah, rephrase it, make it simpler for me to understand.
Easier.
I was too busy being incredulent that we weren't getting a question.
In what year were tactical substitutions first allowed?
Quite
Oh,
late,
man.
wasn't it?
It was something I've seen something about Australia and New Zealand, how they originally allowed subs before anywhere else.
Right.
Go
for it. Go with an answer. I'm cool.
I think they sort of allowed it earlier, but I think it was 1960 something.
1960 something. You're wrong. Want to go to Steel, guys?
1973.
No, 1996.
I was thinking the 90s.
96. Wow.
1996.
What? Actually, like proper pro time?
Yeah.
Aye.
So, question 5 for this is definitely Caledonia and the North. Then
We're doing well, eh?
The true or false? A number 8 must place their head between and bind onto both locks in the scrum. Is that true or false? So there's no chance to steal this.
That's false.
It's almost certainly true because none of them do it.
Say it again, Cammy, just to be sure.
So, a number 8 must place their head between and bind onto both locks during a scrum.
No, false.
Not to bind, but I'm not sure about the head.
They can sometimes. You've sometimes seen it. I'm not sure. I've sometimes seen it where they go left. And no, it's not something recent.
Well, they do it, Sandy. It's whether or not they're allowed.
Yeah. Well, you would like to think the referee would pick up on that then.
Yeah, but then you're supposed to, put in straight as well, right? They never catch on that.
Well, what's the consensus then? What's the
consensus? I've
True
tended
or
to go
false?
with. I think with Rory on this one. I think it's one of those double sort of misleading
true
questions.
in that case? We're saying true then.
It's true they're supposed to, but Ryan Wilson never does it.
False.
That
is the answer.
Sorry, that mean do we get the point for that then?
No, you don't. Back row players.
I'm down.
Here's the answer. Back row players are only required to have one arm bound to a lock.
All right. Same as a
So there you go. So they don't have to. So Ian and John, your question then. If you are in touch and not holding the ball, you may score a try by touching the ball down in the in-goal area, providing you are not carrying the ball.
What? Right. So
Can we read that again?
if you're in touch,
not holding the ball, you may score a try
by touching the ball down in the goal area, providing you're not carrying the ball.
So like if you're just
that's
on the side and you're stretching your arm over, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that might be true.
I go with it.
True.
Go with true.
You go true. That is true.
Yes.
Boosh.
So there you go.
2-0.
There you go. 2. No, I think you 3 up.
Easy, Cam.
2.
No, because you didn't give us the point
I'll
for
take
them
the
getting
3.
their true or false wrong, which is a dubious call, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, so you're on 2 then, are you?
We'll keep you right, mate.
Good job. Right, give me 2 seconds. We're going to sort the next video out in a minute. So, Rory, while I get faff on with these videos a little bit, can you introduce Scott Hastings for us?
I certainly can. Before I do that, I'll just a couple of shout outs from Twitter, people who are watching and giving us a bit of chat. The stream seems to be okay, most of them. The Freighters are watching, supporting the West, which is obviously the reason for their victory in the quiz so far, representing Kilmarnock RFC, and also shout out to Ross McDowell, who's watching and enjoying. Now, our next speaker won 65 caps for Scotland between 1986 and 1997. He was a 2-time British and Irish Lion and was part of the Grand Slam winning side of 1990, retiring as Scotland's most capped player at the time. Since hanging up the boots, he's gone on to a career as commentator and pundit on both 7s and 15s for almost every platform that shows rugby and has the money to pay him. In recent seasons, he's added a new role as professional uncle wherever Adam is playing, and father is too busy kissing in the stands to pass comment. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Scott during a party after the loss to England that ended Scotland's World Cup in 2011. It was hosted by the Scottish arm of the UK consulate down in Auckland, New Zealand. My mate Doug was let into the party, which was for players, coaches, and the odd representative of the fans who'd been touring New Zealand for a month, despite wearing a hat with "Scotland are crap" hastily scribbled on it. He also used a different word that rhymes with hit. Following the game, it was a fairly indisputable fact. So most of the luminaries of the rugby scene, such as Scotland backs coach Gregor Townsend, King of Centres Richie Vernon, Paterson or Doug's had no mind. We were all a few beers in by that point, and Scott, who stopped and chatted, seemed to be having a much better time than he did in New Zealand when he was there in the Lions tour of 1993, where he shattered a cheekbone and was unable to play the All Blacks. I won't say whether Scott definitively agreed with the sentiment on my friend's hat that night. He definitely did. But the general consensus was on leaving that he was the best crack of the 3 Hastings brothers present. Yes, there is another one. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Scott Hastings.
You'll have to wait a second. We're just waiting for Scott Hastings to video to load up. That wasn't as quick as I thought it would be. You were too fast, Rory. Much too fast.
Sorry.
So hang on. We're just going to pause. It's just give me 2 seconds while we catch up, and then we'll be with you guys very shortly. My computer's decided to throw a little bit of a wobbly. So while I try and get that, let's try and for Scott Hastings one more time.
You try and do that. Let's all do Ben Skeen impressions.
Give us your best. Give us your best Ben Skeen impression.
Oh no, I'll let someone else take the floor.
Don't go all shy now.
It's your thing. Come on.
Come on, Ian.
Is there any chat, John? Is there any chat on the Facebook?
No, we're still just we've got the rows. The rows are in session. We've got Johnny, Tom, and Stephen. Sorry. Here, Rebecca Smith gave us a wee shout saying the video was a bit laggy, but sounds fine. Andrew Morris is with us. We've got Ricky Munday. I've also got Ross McDowell with us. Yvonne Ferguson, Martin Clark, Ian Hay is also watching. Hi, Ian.
Probably him that's slowing everything down.
No, I was checking if the video was jumping on that.
Ian's currently doing like a Zoom callception here. He's watching himself, and it's an infinite loop of destruction
on the end of everything.
Mate, it's my new thing.
Speaking of Ross McDowell, this is my first tie change of the night. He's given me a couple. This is his old air tie I've put on now. So yes, there we go.
I didn't even see you change.
I tell you what, guys, we're ready. We'll put everyone out of their misery now.
There we go.
We're ready to go with Scott Hastings. So enjoy this, everybody. We'll just check that this is definitely going to work. Stop the share.
I can see him, or I could see him.
You can see him. Well, that's good. Let's try that again. Just check. I'm going to just check that I'm sharing the sound for it. Scott Hastings.
Good evening, everybody, and hope you're enjoying the great rugby dinner. Of course, we're in unbelievable times surrounding this COVID-19 situation. Scottish Rugby have just announced a return to play protocol for the game, so hopefully we'll all be back sometime later this year in clubhouses, supporting our team, supporting our great game. And who knows, Scottish Rugby and the Scotland team under the coaching of Gregor Townsend will be back to winning ways again with the replaying of the Six Nations and some autumn internationals. So I hope you're all well and having a fantastic night. When Cammy Black first approached me, asked me would I be good enough to maybe send a video message, and I said, Cammy, good enough? Of course I'll be good enough. It's whether I want to or not. But no, I was delighted with the Scottish Rugby podcast and blog that he does to contribute tonight. And we came up with the concept where I know you're raising a lot of funds for your own clubs, but there's one man for me who is the epitome and is the standing within Scottish Rugby, and his name's Dodie Weir. The most fantastic man around, the most loved rugby player of all time, I would say. And sadly, Dodie, 3.5 years ago, I think, as we know, was diagnosed with MND, and he recently had his 50th birthday. And I know a lot of you have supported his foundation. I chair that foundation, the My Name's Dodie Foundation, and Cammy and I thought it might be appropriate that the young lad might get a little bit of support from all you guys out there, because he epitomises the fun aspect of our wonderful game of rugby union, and the fact that his standing as a Scotsman, as a Melrose rugby player, as a Scottish rugby player, and as a British and Irish Lion, his reach throughout the world has been absolutely fantastic. And for me, I just want to say that he has done more for Scottish rugby, I think, than anybody else. And of course, helping the MND community. When he phoned me up to tell me he had MND and he wanted my help, I said we do everything in our power to help raise the profile. But he wanted to help others, and surely that is the spirit of the game, helping others, the values of the teamwork, the friendships, the fraternity. And that's why you're all sitting down tonight to have a meal together in many respects, albeit that you're sitting in different atmospheres, different lounges, different flats, mansions, castles, farmyards, wherever you might be. But I hope Dougie Donnelly's looking after you and you're enjoying his company. But on behalf of everybody at My Name's Dodie Foundation, I chair it. For me, Scott Hastings, the most cat Hastings brother. Always remember that. I got 65 cats. My brother only got 61. However, there is a wee guy called Adam Hastings who's got a few more cats, and he's already over the 20s mark already. But listen, to everybody in Scottish Rugby, I wish you well. Have a great night, and let's all raise a glass to Dodie Weir. All the best to you. Cheers, man.
Well, there we go. What a speech.
Yeah, cheers.
So that lovely.
Is it just me, or is he turning into Sam Jones from Flash Gordon?
Oh, what a magnificent way to go. So I think we should all raise a glass to Dodie. To Dodie.
To Dodie.
To Dodie.
So I think we've got to the bottom of the video issues. It's going to be laggy. I think that's as much because the audio seems to be working fine.
We can always put the videos up on the blog for people.
I think that's what we'll do. So afterwards, we will put the videos up on the blog afterwards. We'll put them on our YouTube channel, and then you can watch them to your heart's content.
People just get a few beers down themselves. It'll feel normal anyway.
At the end of it,
you can hear it fine.
I think that's fine.
Things, Cammy, we can see your desktop with your.
I know. I was trying something. I was trying something different. There's an option to maximize the screen, and I thought that might be making it laggy. It's not. It's still making it laggy. So we'll go with that.
We'll probably all turn off our videos. That might help.
It's fine.
I've been turning mine off.
Yeah, West Coast.
I did ask you to
following the rules.
Let's look. We've got, in honor of Scott. Scott's obviously a co-commentator. So in honor of Scott's co-commentating, words are obviously very important. And one of the rounds in Shammy Dab used to be to identify the meanings of old Scots words. So I'm going to go in the same order we went last time. So I'm going to start with Caledonia and the East. I'm going to give you a word or a phrase, and I want you to tell me what it means. So the first one I have is Shammy Dab. What does Shammy Dab mean?
Oh, I think I know this.
Sandy knows. I think you might.
I'll prefer it to Sandy then.
Yeah, totally. I'm going. It's something to do with priming a wall for painting. It's what you do before you paint a wall.
Okay.
Oh, do you know what, Sandy? I'm going to give you that. It's close. It's close enough. It's close enough. It refers to a cheap wall decoration where a wall was stippled with a wet sponge. When done well, it was said to be a Shammy Dab.
Yeah, okay.
Good
well
job.
done, sir. Well done, Sandy.
Thank you,
Sandy.
Yeah.
So, Ian and John, your word or phrase is ill willy.
Well,
bearing in mind, please don't swear.
John, I think this is one of your specialties, isn't it, John?
It's PG-13, guys. Remember.
No, behave yourself in here. So, did you say eel or ill?
Ill willy.
Ill, because eel willy's a different thing altogether.
Could you use it in a sentence?
No, I'll use it in a sentence afterwards.
No,
Go on,
right.
Take a guess.
Ill Willy. I don't know. I'm thinking what could Willie be in relation to? I would assume ill would mean something poorly.
Ill, yeah. So maybe something to do with I don't know.
I'll take your next answer because we do have to be finished by 10. I've got bedtime.
On you go, Ian.
A poor horse. A sickly horse.
No, I'm going to hand it over to the other team. What do you want to have a guess? An ill willy?
Was it Old Scots for Brewer's Droop?
Close. No, I'm not giving you. It's bad tempered. So to use it in a sentence would be Andy Robinson was ill willy after Scotland lost to Tonga.
Andy Robinson was constantly ill willy.
Ill willy, he is. That's true. So Sandy, Rory, and Al, your next word is flumgummery. Flumgummery.
Probably like a sort of
confusion.
Yeah, sort of can't get your words out.
Is that what you're going with?
Yep.
No. Do you want to have a go, Ian and John?
I would have thought it meant talking nonsense.
Talking nonsense. John, are you going to go with that as your answer?
I think that sounds good, yep.
No, it means a foolish or frivolous thing. So that Finn Russell pass was pure flumgummery.
But it worked.
Don't know. I'm not saying it didn't work here. I'm just saying it's pure flummery.
Memory.
So, John and Ian, your word is rummeligugs.
Mullygugs.
Rummeligugs.
I think I've heard that.
So what do you assume your gugs are, John?
See, I was thinking gugs sounded slightly like lugs, so I was thinking ears.
I was thinking ears or eyes, maybe.
Yes,
Rummeligugs, was that it?
Rummeligugs. So something
By
perhaps.
that rationale, though, I mean, Dugs sound like Gugs as well. I'm not sure your train of logic is going to...
Wait, don't throw us off our game here, Rory. We've got a process.
Try to distract us. Does it mean you're a cloth-eared twat? Basically, is that John?
There we go. Right, yeah, after timestamp. This is what happened. This is why we don't do live podcasts.
Because of Ian Hay.
Yeah. No, I'm not
PG-13. We've been over this. Emma Stone said it in Easy.
Not. Well, I'll allow it. It's after 9 o'clock. We're fine. No, I'm not going to give it to you. Other team, do you have a go?
It's Rory, you thought you knew what it might be.
No, I said I'd heard it. I couldn't remember what it meant.
It's actually it's a windbag.
Rummeligugs. Yeah.
So Sir Clive Woodward is a right rummeligugs.
Also, my answer for question 2 would have fitted around.
Possibly,
half a point.
He's also the word that Ian said.
So East and Caledonia, penny wobble. Or penny wabble, sorry, it's
wabble.
Penny, then WABBLE, wabble, penny wabble.
It'd be something cheap, probably.
What is a penny wabble?
Something's penny wabble. I was thinking something that was unstable.
You going with that?
Yeah, something
like
cheap.
Like Ryan Wilson's temperament on the pitch is penny wabble.
Penny wabble. Okay, no, it's not. So Ian and John, your chance to steal this. Do you have a guess at a penny wabble? Quick guess.
Cheap booze. John, you're right with that? Cheap booze.
Do you know what? I'm going to give you that. It's watered down beer.
Bush.
Penny wabble.
It's like a white lightning.
Excellent guess. So 3-2. So John and Ian, your last one, the last word before we go to the next speaker, is ramsturi. Ramsturi.
Some sort of fight.
I'm just.
Yes, a bar fight.
No. Chance to steal, guys.
Ramsturi.
See, I would have said an argument or something like that as well, but
like a heavy wind.
A heavy wind.
No, the breeze kind.
Bad story.
Nope. It is slapdash rough and ready. So the Scottish defence was ramsturi between 2003 and 2015.
I feel like I've learned a lot tonight already.
I'd say 2019.
Yeah, I was going to say 2015.
I had to have a cut-off. We were all right in the World Cup at 2015. So, who have we got next? Sandy, can I ask you to introduce our next speaker?
Yes, thank you, Cammy. Just before I do so, if you don't mind, a quick shout to last Swede minis, particularly the P7s, because I know that some of them listening to the podcast, whether they're on tonight, I don't know, but they've been telling me to do it for ages, so there you go. Shout out, guys, if you're listening. Our next guest is Scottish international winger Rhona Lloyd. Rhona started playing rugby whilst a pupil at Tynecastle High School, went on to captain Murrayfield Wanderers as they won the Under-18s Bruin Dolphin Cup. She subsequently represented Scotland Sevens at Under-19 level, the full side at Under-20s, and made her full cap debut in 2016 against England. Since then, she's chalked up an impressive 50 points and 28 caps in the Blue Scotland. In the domestic game, she's in her second season with Loughborough Lightning in the Tyrrell's Premier 15 and has notched up 7 tries in 7 games before it was curtailed due to COVID. If that's not enough, she's an honours graduate at Edinburgh University, is studying for her Masters at Loughborough, and is the host of the Women Who Sport podcast, along with fellow Scotland international Sarah Bonner. So it's a real privilege for us to have her share her valuable time with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Rhona Lloyd.
Hello, this is Rhona Lloyd from the Scotland Women's 7s and 15s team. I hope you're having a wonderful evening at the virtual end of season dinner, and a big thank you to Scottish Rugby Blog for having me on. An event I can show up to in shorts and a t-shirt and that I physically cannot be late for is pretty ideal for me, so that one's for sure appreciated. I think with the way the season ended for everybody, it would be easy to treat it as a bit of a write-off, but actually there were some massive positives throughout the season in the women's game that I'm going to take the opportunity to highlight tonight, and that I don't think we should let go forgotten about. So at club level, we had Heriots winning that one only 18 months after coming into existence, and then Watsonians picking up their first ever Prem title, so big congratulations for both of those clubs. We didn't get to live out Cup Finals day at Murrayfield, but when the season ended, we had absolutely no idea who was going to be there, and it's absolutely fantastic that there's that level of competition in the Prem now. At the grassroots side of the game, it was the first year that there was regionalised leagues, which just shows how much that is growing. And I've got reliable sources at Stornoway RFC that tell me that they get much bigger crowds than the men. So, you know, we love to hear that here. On the national side, we started with 2 wins away to South Africa and Cape Town. You know, in the roaring sun, kind of stopping 20 minutes for water breaks. And then our final game was rearranged due to a storm back at home. So, you know, I think that's pretty reflective of how 2020's been, that roller coaster. We had 10 games lined up, which is, you know, more than double than what I played in my first season. So it's absolutely fantastic, the growth of the game. We had Lisa Martin getting her 50th cap, which is a huge achievement on the women's side, and, you know, one that should all be incredibly proud of, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of in the next couple of years with the group that we've got at the minute. I think one thing's for sure going into next season is that, you know, if you play or coach or support or manage a rugby team, you know, you'll certainly, we will not take it for granted again with how the last season ended. And if, like me, you're a winger that spends the January nights in the 5 metre channel looking forward to sevens, then you know that is particularly true. Big thanks to everybody that has kept the rugby content going over this past couple of months, and to the Scottish Rugby blog for putting this on tonight and bringing our rugby community in Scotland together. I think somebody else that not only brings the rugby community in Scotland together but all over the world together is Dodie Weir, who this night is all about, and raising money for the My Name's Dodie Foundation, which are doing incredible work. So I'd like to finish by saying thank you and raising a glass to the legends at your club, past and present, and of course to Dodie. So cheers.
So that's, I managed to start that again. So that was Rhona Lloyd. A fantastic speech, I think you'll all agree. It's wonderful to hear about the women's game. I think it's starting to get a lot more coverage in Scotland, and certainly I think the new season structure seems to be working really well. Lots of international players now getting chances overseas in the bigger leagues, particularly France and England. So that's something to be happy about. There's a bit of news around the Scotland Sevens, that possibly looking at a GB Sevens women's team, and we've got an article about that on the blog that's just gone in the last couple of days. So it's well worth a read if you can. If you want to hear more from Rhona, she used to do some work. I think she might still be involved with the School of Hard Knocks charity. And we spoke to her about that on episode 36B of the podcast. I don't know why I labelled it 36B, but there you go. My big memory of that interview is her telling us that Mark Bennett turned up to all the School of Hard Knocks things with his Olympic silver medal just to show it off. So, but why wouldn't you if you'd won Olympic silver, to be fair? Rhona was talking about the players there. So where would players be without their grounds? So it's a geography round, which was, again, a big shammy dab thing. Where in Scotland are we? Was one of the rounds. So I'm going to give each team the name of a ground in Scotland, and I'm going to ask you which team plays there.
Oh.
So I will start with the Caledonia and Edinburgh lot. So Philip Haw, where are you playing if you're playing at Philip Haw?
Selkirk.
Well done, Sandy. That's point to the east.
Sandy, you can answer all these.
That might be the only one.
So I'm going to go with Ian and John. Braidholm. Where are you? What team are you playing?
Firstly, by the way, I've just changed out my canvas lang tie. My mate Bruni, James Brown, who coaches there and coach at Hindland, he's given me this, so thanks, Bruni. Braidholm is GHA, it's about 2 miles away from me.
Well, right, for a bonus point, and first person to shout this out gets the bonus point. What does GHA stand for?
Glasgow Hutchinson Alloysians.
Oh, I'm going to give you each a point for that.
Oh, yes.
Well done. So the next one for Caledonia in the East is Pickacquoy.
Orkney.
Well done, Rory.
Well done, yes.
Well, nicely done, sir.
So that is.
I've been there. They training. We've got an indoor facility. They share. I went up there filming a thing for the lottery once, and they train in a facility they share with the pony club.
What, at the same time?
It's like, yeah, there's a giant shed basically that has sawdust on the floor, and the rugby team can train in there.
So are they training while the ponies are
winter.
going around the outside?
No, probably not at the same time.
Right.
So I could have done that when I was playing rugby. Have a horse to go on. Maybe split me up a wee bit.
Do tackle practice on the horses.
What do you mean by that?
Right. So I think we're 5-6 for the minute. Next one for Ian and John. Glenn Cruton. Or Glenn Cruiton.
How are you spelling that?
GLENCRUITTEN. Glenn Cruiton.
I've not got a Scooby. Do you know, John?
No, it must be somewhere up north, I think.
Do you have a guess at somewhere up north? Just name random town or a random place and all.
Just make up Cromarty again, which doesn't have a rugby team.
See, I deliberately went with not having a rugby team. Peterhead.
No, anyone want to come in for a steal from the other team?
Sounds like somewhere like King Yusi or something like that, Rory.
It's not one I've heard
I
of.
have no idea. Don't know.
King Yusi.
King Yusi, no, Obenlawn.
I've actually played there. I should know that. I've actually played there. Crikey. I got absolutely hammered after that game. Yeah.
Well, there's the
why you can't
reason.
remember.
Alice, you can't remember.
Pretty much.
So next one. So we've got. I think I'm on to you guys in the Eastern Caledonia, aren't I?
No, that's awesome.
So,
No, I Camden.
Tom Sims Memorial Park.
Sims Memorial. No.
Tom Sims Memorial Park.
I don't know.
Sims doesn't
Not,
sound
not
like
sure.
You're not sure? Do you have a hazard, I guess?
Kirkcaldy.
Coddy, no.
No,
Close.
no,
Anyone
well,
else? Ian and John? You know, I guess at the Tom Sims Memorial Park.
It's one of them I feel like I should know, but I can't mind. Stuart Melville.
No, Carrick.
Carrick.
Carrick, there you go. So the last one for John and Ian, then your last one is Duffus Park.
I was about to swear there. John, you get anything?
No, I've got nothing, mate.
I think I know this.
I've got an idea.
Right. Do you have a guess, guys?
It sounds like
Ian,
it's
John?
Aberdeen way.
On you go, Ian.
Newton Stewart.
Right. Other team want to steal.
I thought it was Howe of Fife.
Well done, Al.
Cooper.
What tie were you wearing earlier, Ian?
one that was donated to me.
I think, Ian, you should now, on camera, give a public apology to Johnny McGinty and everybody at Howe of Fife.
I think you should kiss my.
They
Sorry,
are all
Johnny.
watching. They are all watching tonight.
Are they? Well, sorry, Johnny, and the rest of the crew at Howe of Fife. That will put my donation up by £5.
I can confirm Rebecca's raging as well, mate. Rebecca, she's dropping a note on Facebook. Man, disappointing.
Have we got any more messages from Facebook and Twitter, Rory and John?
If you're on Twitter, from one R Sweeting on the tweets asking Mr. Ian Hay to get his finger out and do the Ben Skeen impression. Representing Carthage UP.
No, I was around at Chateau McDowell Sweetings yesterday to pick up the ties. So it's a good thing we didn't do the podcast yesterday because I forgot to take an antihistamine. And they've got a very furry cat, so my right eye was out to about here and very, very red. But no, I'm not doing the Ben Skeen. I feel it's cultural appropriation if I do it. Rather than being very, very funny.
Ivor Fraser also watching, saying loving the content. The director appears to have front row coordination, though. I think that's probably your visible.
That's probably my directing, yeah.
Scott Hastings.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's noticed that the file that all the things are held in is called Owen Farrell and George Ford fan fiction.
I definitely noticed.
Yeah, 100% noticed.
That was deliberate. I will stress that. So.
Facebook cam, there's plenty of shout
good, go and give some shout outs from Facebook.
We've got Ron Wilson, London Scottish Exile, down in Englandshire. We've got Ian Wells enjoying with a beer in hand. Tony Young even, shout out from Lincoln. They'll be donating to the Suns team, Slayford RFL. We've got Bill Black saying, could you ask Cammy to wash the shirt before he gives it back to me?
Can I also, right now, while we're on this point, for Mr. Bill Black, who I did borrow the shirt from, I've seen a photo of him this evening. He's wearing his 50th anniversary Berwick Rugby Club tie. He's also got our 6 Try Hero t-shirt on, but a tie and a tie and a t-shirt. What's that? Is that a fine? I think that's a fine in my name's Dodie.
So.
T-shirt and a tie, unacceptable.
Down a drink on video, I think.
He got that t-shirt at cost as well. We didn't make anything off that t-shirt. Shocking. He owes me £3. Donate the markup. That's what you should do. You should donate the markup to My Name's Dodie.
Yeah.
That sounds fair.
Okay, so our next speaker, it's the big one. Oh, this is amazing. Right, John, can you introduce our next speaker, please?
I certainly
I think
can.
this should be like a fanfare or bugle call.
I know, right? I know. Should be
music for Shammy Dab.
I mean,
I did have that planned, Sandy.
You are kind of stealing it here, so let's go for it. So, sports scene, Radio Clyde, the Golf Channel, Miss Scotland. What do they all have in common? Yes, they have all been presented by this 2-time Scottish Radio Personality of the Year. So what started as an attempt to get a better deal on a corner group sofa has morphed into a regular feature on the only Scottish rugby podcast that actually cares about Scottish broadcasting institutions. Subject of an impassioned plea on a Rugby World Cup B-side country ballad to return to our council telly screens, it's time to hear from the man, the myth, the legend. That's right, guys, we have completed it. It's Dougie Donnelly.
Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, and undecideds, good evening. This is all a little bit strange, but an absolute delight to be taking part in the big club dinner, and I hope that a bunch of you managed to get together, maybe in a virtual bar. You've got a drink in front of you and trying to recreate the atmosphere of a club dinner. It's been strange times, hasn't it? And this is a little bit odd, as I'm sure all the speakers have said tonight, because normally, as you would expect, I speak to an audience of adoring hundreds, laughing their socks off. I'm on my Todd in here. Even the dog's disappeared. But hopefully we'll have a few laughs. It's been such a strange time, hasn't it? The whole lockdown scenario. I don't know. The last time I was on a plane was back in January, coming back from a tournament in the Middle East. It's the longest I've been at home for about 30 years, and I'm sure most of us are in the same position. And of course, it creates a few problems at home, doesn't it? The missus and I have had our ups and downs. Within the first few weeks of lockdown, she was Googling divorce lawyers. Just a couple of weeks after that, she was Googling hitmen. But we managed to get through it all right, and it's a bit strange. And of course, some of you might well be surprised to see me anyway, because a lot of people that I bump into say, Dougie Donnelly, I thought you died or retired. We're working for the BBC Scotland channel, which is the same thing, really, I suppose, when you think about it. But happily, no, I'm still alive and kicking and looking forward to getting back to what is now my day job, commentating on the European tour. It's also been very strange during this lockdown because we've all been drinking too much, really, haven't we? I mean, there's no doubt about that. I had to see my doctor, and he told me that I really was going to have to stop drinking so much, which was a bit of a shock. That's going to be a big change for me because he's been my doctor for about 20 years or so. Anyway, what a lucky guy I am. I came dangerously close to getting a real job. I studied law at university. Think about that. I could have been a lawyer. I could have been retired about 5 years by now, playing golf and getting fat. But things took a slightly different turn. I started DJing, and very soon after that, got very lucky and joined Radio Clyde, excuse me, and ended up doing the morning show on Radio Clyde. And not too long after that, got the chance to join the BBC Scotland sports team in Glasgow. And that was enormously fortunate because it was a time when the BBC had everything. I mean, we really had all the sport that was worth having. And as a mad keen sports fan, I took on everything that was offered. If they said, do you know anything about curling? I would probably say, not very much, but give me a week. Do you know anything about indoor bowls? Nah, not very much. Give me a week. All of which led me to all sorts of things, including 7 Olympic Games. And sometimes I look back at that and I think, how lucky were you to get to 7 Olympics? And what a golden era it was for Scottish sport when you think about it. At that time, even just to take football, we qualified for 5 World Cups in a row. Think about that. The last one we qualified for was back in '98. It's 22 years and will be more than that next time we do it, if and when we do it. So 5 World Cups. The new firm were emerging. Dundee United reached a European final. Aberdeen won one. The old firm, of course, were still around. Alan Wells won an Olympic gold medal. Stephen Hendry dominated the world snooker. Paul Laurie won the Open. Sam Torrance, Colin Montgomery. And right up there amongst my absolute favourite memories of all the sport I've had the chance to work on, 2 Scottish Grand Slams, which we all remember, of course. I was so fortunate both in 1984 and 1990 to be sitting alongside a great hero and a great friend, the late Bill McLaren. I sat beside Bill in Dublin when we won the Triple Crown, and then back at Murrayfield when Jim Calder's try gave us the Grand Slam against France. And then, of course, just 6 years later, the epic Grand Slam of 1990, which all came down, as you all remember, to that winner-take-all decider against England at Murrayfield. And at that time, I was doing a kind of Friday night preview programme, Friday Sports Scene, which we did live from Goldenacre. Sorry, the voice is... I've not been used to doing this for a long time. So we did this preview show from Goldenacre on the Friday night, live in front of a bunch of the Heriots members. And we had John Beattie in there as a guest. We had, who else was a guest in that one? Andy Irvine was certainly a guest. And we had Bill Beaumont and Steve Smith. So it was all, previewing the game tomorrow, which was good fun, actually. And all the boys agreed that win or lose, they would all be back on the Saturday night to do Saturday Night Sports Scene after the match to talk about how it had all gone. Needless to say, we were all celebrating. No sign of either Beaumont or Smith. They didn't appear at all. Now, I'd spoken to a few of the players after the game, and I said, look, we've got this live show from Goldenacre. I know you're out in Edinburgh tonight. You'll be having a few drinks. You'll be celebrating. But if you do get a chance, drop in. It'd be great to see you. So they said, yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. So anyway, halfway through the programme, and I'm sitting with John Beattie and Andy Irvine, and I can't remember who else was there, a whole bunch of us, replaying the highlights, having a great night. And then suddenly there was a terrific commotion at the back of the room, and unbelievably, 4 or 5 of the guys had made it to Goldenacre. In walked JJ, Chick Chalmers, Finn Calder, Derek White. They all came up to the front. We were sitting. Sound guys were running about, crazily trying to put microphones on them. It was just an unforgettable night. I ended up, I seem to remember, with one of the very respectable Heriots members pouring a pint over my head as I was wishing everyone goodbye from Goldenacre. So that was very, very special indeed. And some of you might even have been at Goldenacre that night who are at our big club dinner tonight. But of course, that afternoon also gave me something which is still probably one of my worst moments in television. Because, sorry, it wasn't that afternoon. What am I talking about? 4 years later, one of the worst moments I've ever had. And people are always asking, you've done all these things, you've done all these sports. What's the worst thing that's ever happened? And it's only television. I mean, it's not brain surgery. It's not nuclear physics. It's only television. When things go horribly wrong, it's not really that big a deal. And I think most of us have tried to maintain that attitude, even though producers might be screaming in your ear. But there was a moment in the 94 Calcutta Cup match at Murrayfield. Again, Scotland against England. And it was a season when we'd struggled. England had been dominant. They had that huge pack and they played very boring rugby, but very effective rugby. And through the game, for once, we just rose to the occasion. And again, you may well remember, with literally 2 minutes to go, we were leading 14-12. On the brink of a famous victory. Murrayfield was going absolutely potty. And then England were given a penalty, which was never, ever a fucking penalty. But the referee gave it. Jonathan Callard stepped up, stuck it between the posts, and from leading 14-12, Suddenly we'd lost it, 15-14. You can imagine the atmosphere that afternoon. It was awful. Everybody trudged off the pitch, and my job that day was to do the after-match interviews. So I'm in the old dressing room corridor at Murrayfield, 2 chairs facing each other. I'm in one, the player sits in the other, cameraman behind my shoulder looking at the player. And the first interview is the Scotland captain that day, Gavin Hastings. So Gavin comes in and he's not happy. None of us are happy. So he sits there in the chair. And usually in that situation, and Gavin had been a friend for a long time, you have a little bit of banter, a little bit of a chat before you go live. The big man has got nothing to say. He's completely down. I'm not feeling all that much better. So we sit looking at each other for maybe 30 seconds. It seems forever. Excuse me. And then I get the voice in the ear to begin the interview. So I asked Big Gav the obvious first question about the awful way in which the game has been lost with virtually the last kick of the ball. And the big man starts to answer it. I'm sure many of you remember this incident. The emotion just suddenly gets to him. It shows how much playing for Scotland means to these guys. Suddenly, he's crying. There's tears beginning to run down his cheeks. And I always remember little things that everything slows down in moments of crisis, don't they? I've always remembered there's a tear drops off the end of his chin onto the blue Scotland jersey. That sticks in my mind for some strange reason. But he's gone. He's absolutely gone. He's now sitting like that, wiping the eyes. The emotion has completely got to him because we had lost. So now I've got a little bit of a problem because I have to ask him another question. And the reason I have to ask him another question is because it's a kind of golden rule in our game that the interviewer never decides when the interview is over. The producer decides that because he may need you to fill a certain amount of time. They may have nowhere else to go. He needs you to keep talking. So I'm thinking, be the professional. I've got to try and ask Gavin another question here. But he's completely gone. And I promise you, for that 10 or 15 seconds, when I'm thinking, I've got to keep going, I can't ask him another question, he's gone. And that, honestly, on live television, live in the grandstand, excuse me, was still one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. So anyway, I decide what I'll do. I'll ask him a really long second question, give him a chance to get his composure back. An Archie McPherson question, a really long question. So I try it, but he's gone. The big man can't talk. So I then take the decision, what the hell, I'm not putting him through anymore. They can sort out what they're doing back in the gallery. So I wind it up and I say, Gav, I think every Scot appreciates how you feel. Maybe we'll speak to you later. And that's fine, and it's all wound up. And the only reason that nobody's said anything in my ear is because they're all as shocked as the audience watching at home. A huge audience in grandstand, obviously. So that was an awful, awful moment. I'm sure you can appreciate how I felt at the time, never mind how Gav felt. Anyway, it's all over the papers on the Sunday morning, isn't it? Scottish captain breaks down after Calcutta Cup defeat. So it's big news. I went off, I remember, to do snooker at the Wembley Conference Centre. So on about the Monday or the Tuesday, I get a phone call from Gav. And I said, how are you, big man? You all right? He said, oh, I'm fine. I'm really sorry about Saturday. I said, oh, listen, don't apologise. We all know exactly how you felt. He said, no, it was, he said it was awful. But the great thing was, this is before email, before mobiles even. That's how long ago it was, 94. I've had so many letters since Saturday, all sympathetic, all understanding, not a word of criticism. And I said, well, that doesn't surprise me. He said, no, but the best letter I got was from your missus, from Linda. I said, what, you got a letter from Linda? Yeah, I got a letter from Linda. I said, what did it say? He said, dear Gav, sorry I made you burst into tears. Now you know how I feel. True story. That's exactly what happened back in 1994. Now, as I say, all that I'm doing is golf. I left the BBC finally after 32 years, 10 years ago, believe it or not. I now travel the world talking about the European tour, which is a lot of fun with a lot of guys that I really enjoy working with. And as we all know, being with your mates is so important, and that's become more and more obvious over the last few awful months. So working with guys like Sam Torrance and Ken Brown and Tony Johnson and people like that, it's just an absolute joy for me. And we have a lot of laughs doing it. Ken in particular, you know that famous laugh at Ken Brown's. And we're always looking for a little bit of humour to come in from somewhere. And I remember one in particular, we're doing an opening at the old course before, I don't think it was an open, it was maybe a Dunhill Links. And we're doing it on the 17th tee in the Old Course, with the Old Course Hotel in the background. So I'm with Ken. I'm saying, welcome to today's programme, round 3 of the Dunhill Links, whatever it is. And let's just talk about the 17th hole here, the famous road hole, Ken. The first decision you've got to make is what line do you take off the tee? Because you've got to go over the corner of the hotel, the old railway sheds. And on the sheds, it says Old Course Hotel and Spa, I think it says. And the argument is always, which letter do you aim over? Do you go the D in old or the U in course? What's your line? So I said to Ken, what line do you normally go for? He said, I always go for the F in hotel. And I said, there's no F in hotel. He said, yeah, there is. What do you think that big building behind us is? It was recorded, sadly. It never actually went out, but a typical Ken Brown line. I also had one which I've got to tell you about last year, one of my biggest bloopers, cock-ups. Now, there have been many, but one in particular I remember with, I suppose a lot of affection, really. And it happened in China, in Shanghai, at the WGC HSBC Champions. And Tony Finau, the American, who had just played his first Ryder Cup match, becoming a bit of a superstar. He's in the top 20 in the world. He's having a good week. And I'm in commentary along with Frank Nobilo and my great mate from Hong Kong, Don Boulay. We're the commentary team that week. And I decided that I've really got to talk about Tony Finau, obviously. So I start off this story, and it's actually genuinely quite an interesting story, because Tony Finau is not your classic American country club golfer with a silver spoon in the mouth who, goes to college and builds his career that way. Tony was from a very humble background. His old man was a luggage handler at Salt Lake City Airport. So there was no golfing background at all. Quite a big family. I think Tony was one of 5 or 6. But he and his little brother always used to go down to the end of the road near their house in Salt Lake City, where there was a little par 3 course. And they would look through the fence. They never played golf. They just watched through the par 3, through the fence at the boys playing the par 3 course. But they were clearly interested. So the dad, as dads do, decides that, well, he's got to encourage this interest in golf. He can't afford to get them a membership or buy them clubs, really. But he manages to find a few old clubs. They manage to find a few old balls. And what he does is he gets an old mattress and he hangs it from the rafters in the basement of the family house. So there's this mattress hanging from the rafters, and they got a bit of carpet on the floor. And Tony and his young brother hit balls into the mattress. That's how they started playing golf. He went on to become a multimillionaire, winner in the PGA Tour, and a Ryder Cup player. It's a great story. But in telling this story, I'm saying what a great story this is. And to this day, Tony Finau still finds it a very evocative sound. That sound of his balls hitting the mattress. I can tell you that neither Nobilo nor Boulay spoke for about the next 5 minutes. It was just one of those moments. I was quite pleased about. Anyway, it's been fantastic being part of the big club dinner tonight. Well done to the guys on the podcast for the initiative. I think we all know how important sport has been, how our mates have been during the last few months. I must admit, I've found, I'm sure many of you have as well, that almost the hardest part of the week was Saturday morning, when you woke up and you realised there was no live sport to look forward to over the weekend. Thankfully, it is beginning to come back a little bit. And the key thing, of course, is we all have to support our local club. You know how important your local club is, how much you've missed being able to go down and have a few beers and watch a game or play or whatever it is you do. So by being part of this tonight, hopefully you are supporting your local club. Continue to support them, and hopefully in the weeks and months to come, we'll get back to what we always used to enjoy so much. So please, wherever you are, wherever you're watching, ladies, gentlemen, raise your glasses and let's toast our clubs. To the clubs.
Well, there you have it. Wow. We should raise a glass, everyone.
To the clubs.
To the clubs.
For anyone not keeping track,
I filled my whiskey glass very high there. I've just felt.
This is. I was just telling someone the other day, and there was we once had Josh Gardner from the Blood and Mud podcast on once as a guest, and Josh spoke quite a lot during that podcast, and I think you just kind of leaned back into the chair and enjoyed a whiskey, and we forever refer to how you were at the end of that podcast as sound issues.
yes, there was the extreme sound issues. Well, I've explained to you that there was also the dinner issue. I appreciate you covering my back, Cammy, but
that's right. Yeah, sound
but
issues. If there are sound issues later on this evening, it's only because we are enjoying ourselves during these speeches.
We don't have long to go.
What a speech!
It was fantastic.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
we were so grateful to Dougie Donnelly for giving his time to deliver that speech, and what a speech it was. As a little treat for you, we have uncovered the footage of that 1990 Saturday evening end of sports scene event. So we will play out with that tonight. So look forward to that. But yeah, we're very grateful to everybody that's given a speech tonight, particularly Dougie for that speech. It was incredibly entertaining stuff. Now, important things. Go back to the quiz.
Oh.
That's what everyone's here for. No one cares what Dougie Donnelly's speech is. Back to the quiz.
I've changed tie again.
Oh, go on then, Ian. I've got a couple of points of order as well for you, but go on.
All right. So I've got another Ross McDowell tie on. This is it's a Cartha Queen's Park tie. He's either left it in a garage or he's been round at Max Evans' house because there's some kind of dust on it. But yeah, so this is a Cartha QP tie. There we go. Fifth tie of the night. Is it the fifth tie? Aye. Right.
How many whiskies you had?
Can I do a tie as well, Cammy? Do you mind?
Yeah, you go. We'll switch to you. We'll go jump to you in a minute, Sandy. Ian, so that's Cartha. Go on then, Sandy. What have you changed ties as well?
Yeah, I'm now sporting it's a rather natty Curry Chieftains tie donated to me by Andy Jones following an appeal for a nice tie. This is probably the best known or placed rugby non-tie I've ever seen. It's a lovely tartan with the Curry Chieftains gold in there.
Very nice.
Very
sartorial,
nice, yes.
Their captain, Hamish Scott, he always looks very, very elegant.
To be honest, I'm going to be fitting Andy to keep it.
Johnny McGinty's been in touch to say that I should call it Fortress Duffus Park. I will point out to Johnny that Berwick are 2-0 against Howard Fife. So Fortress is probably stretching it a little bit. And there's a few people suggesting that Ian looks like Greg Laidlaw, but I think that might be the lighting.
Time to move to Japan, Ian.
I'm taller than him also.
Money
we just call you Mr. Ian from here on in, is it?
Mr. Ian. So on with the quiz anyway. So this next round, again based on Shammy Dab, I want you to. I'm going to give you a name. Now, this person with this name is either played in the first international for Scotland against England, or they are a current member of the royal family. So your answer is rugby or royal.
All right.
So we'll go with Caledonia. It's 6-6 at this point as well. Although I may have miscounted. Might have a referee's inquiry at the end of it. But I'll say it's 6-6. For the Caledonia and the East, your first name, Charles Armstrong Jones.
I'm saying royal.
Rugby or royal? You're saying royal.
Royal.
Final answer. Royal is correct. 22nd in line to the throne at present. Charles Armstrong Jones.
Well done, sir.
Ian and John, your name. Francis Jeffrey Moncrief. Rugby or royal? Francis Jeffrey Moncrief.
I'm going rugby with that, John.
I think that's good. Rugby, yep.
Moncrief's a good Scottish name.
Correct. He was a forward, first player to captain Scotland, and played for Edinburgh Academicals. Question 3 then. So Rory, Al and Sandy, your name, Samuel David Benedict Chateau. Rugby or royal?
What are you saying, Rory?
I think rugby.
Rugby.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rory?
Rugby. Okay, we'll go rugby.
Chapel with a C, is it?
C. Chatto. Chateau. Or Chateau.
Or Chateau. Yeah, I go rugby. Yeah.
Rugby. No, royal. 25th in line to the throne. Ooh. Ian and John, chance to edge ahead here. Your name is Andrew Galbraith Colville.
See, man, I think this is going to be a curveball and that's going to be a royal. Would you say, John?
See, I was thinking rugby, mate.
Oh,
the two-headed beast of Giananda here is disagreeing.
We're going to have to chew each other's heads off now.
Fight to the death. Let's go.
Also, like you said, it's a chance to edge ahead, but they've had both wrong. We got one right, so we're ahead now, can't we?
Have we got the first one right?
First one right. You both got the first one right. They've just got it wrong. So this is your chance to edge ahead by one.
No, we got it right. So based on the fact Ian can't count,
did you?
we're going rugby.
No, you didn't. I don't know. You said Chateau was a rugby player, and he was wrong.
They got Chateau wrong. They got the first one right.
That's fine. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, give me your answer. Stop pontificating. Give me your answer. Rugby
it's just
or Royal?
a clever ruse, John. If John says rugby, I suppose I'll let him have this one.
Did you say rugby, John?
Rugby, yep.
Yep, rugby player, forward for Murchisons. Next one for Rory, Al, and Sandy. Alfred Clooney's Ross. Alfred Clooney's Ross.
I haven't a clue,
Rugby or
but
Royal?
I'll make some reference.
Whoa! Whoa!
No.
Come on.
You need the other one that we always
Believe it or not, it was just sitting there.
The one with Big Jim Hamilton on the front. I'll have the whole team list.
That's a fine. They've got to get points off for that. That's shocking.
Man, that's essentially Googling it.
I think probably at this point, the fact that Sandy hasn't thought to consult it by this point is probably,
exactly. It's a bit slow in the update.
Probably balances it out. So go on then, rugby or Royal? Alfred Clooney's Ross.
I'm going to go rugby.
I'm going to rugby as well.
Yeah,
rugby, correct. Played for St Andrews and went on to play for Wasps. He was the first non-white international rugby player. His father was from Shetland and his mother was from Indonesia. Well worth looking up on Wikipedia, Alfred Clooney's Ross. Very interesting guy.
I know that Scotland football team, I think a guy called Andy Watson, I think Scotland had the first sort of person of minority
Non-white.
ethnicity. Yeah. I don't know what the correct nomenclature is nowadays. I'm saying rugby with that, John. Sorry, I had a fly buzzing about me there. If you
I haven't asked you a question.
I thought you said about. Sorry, I was distracted with this fly.
We're having sound issues with Ian again.
John, do you just want to continue on
your
own?
Ian, John, here's yours.
What?
So your name is Columbus George Donald Taylor. Donald Taylor. Rugby or Royal?
Royal.
You're saying Royal. Ian, you happy with that? Do you know what? Am I even asking you a question? You happy with it?
Yeah, it's Royal.
Yeah, go with Royal.
Royal. 44th in line to the throne.
Yes, I'm too good at this game.
So there you go. You're far too good at this game. So 9 versus 8, and I'm going to add an extra round at the end of this because we're having lots of fun with this. So I'm going to ask Ian to introduce our final speaker. Now, I'm going to say in advance, our final speaker very kindly did send us a video. We've had a last-minute technical hitch, and I'm on my laptop instead of my Mac, and so we've got audio only for this one, but it is still an absolute blinder. So unfortunately, you don't get to see Robbie's kitchen. That's what you're missing out on here, guys. So yes, I'll ask you to introduce our next speaker.
Okay, and hopefully you've got it lined up so it doesn't take an hour and a half to kick in.
On you go. I'll hopefully sort myself out.
Okay, so usually if you're asking me my opinion of YouTube stars, I'd say things like gibbering moron or talentless gimp. However, our next guest speaker is certainly neither of these things. In a little over 2 years, his insightful and humorous analysis videos have garnered him over 131,000 YouTube subscribers, guest spots on BBC Wales's flagship Scrum 5 rugby programme, and his review of South Africa's march to World Cup victory even gained the Erasmus seal of approval amongst the 823,000 views it had. La Masse Caballeros, and those who are gender fluid, please open your lug holes for the artist of analysis, the professor of the play-by-play, Robbie E's mum and dad, but we most likely know him as Squidge Rugby.
Hello. Firstly, and frankly, most importantly, thank you for having me. I'd apologise for not getting dressed up, except that just a t-shirt that isn't pyjamas is about as dressed up as I've got in since about 1926 or whenever this pandemic, whenever lockdown began. So yeah, thank you for having me. It's a delight to not be here. I've never actually been to an end of season dinner before, though I think I've gathered a pretty solid idea of what they're like, what goes down from talking to friends and family, of which I actually do have both. One of them contrary to popular belief, and from reading the anecdotes page in Rugby World, from having done similar kind of things at arty events before, from watching one episode of Midsomer Murders that I didn't actually get all the way through, but there was like a football end of season dinner. That is a privilege to be to not have the chance to sit next to Scott Hastings and to not see Hollie Davidson try and just smuggle extra cocktail sausages from the buffet like she doesn't know that they're free, and to not go into the toilets alone to discover that Dougie Donnelly is stood over a dead body in a crime that apparently never gets solved, going off my experience of that one episode of Midsummer Murders. All of this is new to me because I think my route into rugby, particularly into becoming some sort of, I guess, recognised voice within the rugby community, is very different and doesn't quite fit with the traditional voice. So my playing days basically amounted to 3 years of spending 18 minutes waiting to get smashed into touch before my mum gave me a lift home. And people talk about the social experience and the social experience of rugby and so on. And as far as whilst as a player goes, my kind of social experience with rugby was mostly just lads from the posh schools nearby forgetting my name. I was actually once invited to an end of season dinner, to the big end of season dinner thing. But when I was asked, when they kind of did the roll call and they mentioned that I was going, everyone was not just surprised, but they seemed genuinely quite disappointed, as though I was kind of this empty narc that wasn't going to contribute any fun, which is frankly exactly what I would have been. So I suddenly remembered at that moment, moments after saying, yeah, I'll go, that I think Glasgow were playing the Dragons that night in the pouring rain, and that was a priority. I had to go and watch that instead, because one day I'd be running an internationally successful YouTube channel based on that one game. I think it finished like 13-6. I seem to remember there's like it's the sort of game Chris Vasaro played and got man of the match, kind of rain trodden, nothing happened, but he makes like 3 turnovers. It's that kind of game. It's that kind of like really empty pointless game. But I think that was fairly representative of my time in rugby. I'd often, when I was playing, I'd turn up really kind of tired in a way. Others would turn up because they were hungover and they got at partying or whatever, but before, I assume, as I said, who cared about me? They didn't tell me that. But I would have been up at 4 a.m. to watch Japan play Fiji. I really vividly remember once when I was in uni, I was living in this tiny flat on my own in my third year, and Samoa were playing Georgia at like 3 a.m. our time, and I got up to watch it. And my main memory of it is being really hungry and looking through my cupboards, looking through my fridge during a kind of reset scrum and realising all I had in was 2 packets of instant mashed potato. And then putting it in the microwave and sitting there just completely miserable, eating this mashed potato because I was hungry and I needed it. And I'd made these 2 pots of mashed potato and just shoving them in my mouth. And it's the kind of story that most people don't get out of there. That was a night out for me. That was my equivalent. I similarly remember the morning of the game between Argentina and Scotland, which I probably shouldn't mention the game considering the company I'm in, but that Argentina-Scotland game in 2011 World Cup, turning up, being in under 16s at the time, and everyone was talking about that Argentine try and how amazing it was and what a great finish it was. And I, when mentioning it, when adding my piece, mentioned it was scored, of course, by Lucas Gonzalez Amorosino, and everyone sat around in this kind of like disbelief. There was like a moment's pause as everyone just kind of looked on at her, etc. At why would you know his name? He's not Johnny Wilkinson or Toby Flood, and I never quite recovered from that. I think that became the definitive story of my time playing rugby as a person that did that kind of thing. So I recognise those aren't particularly entertaining anecdotes. Those aren't kind of fun anecdotes. Those aren't the kind of like bants anecdotes you get from like James Haskell's upcoming autobiography, I'm sure, where it's like it's not as from what I've come to understand is that most of these kind of things are built on anecdotes where some bloke with a double-barrel surname like grabbed the bloke of someone else whose parents probably drove a Land Rover and dipped one of their testicles in the white bit of a Muller corner and their other testicle in the jam or whatever flavour you go for part. That isn't the sort of anecdote. The only outrageous rugby anecdote I have is what I saw Dougie Donnelly doing to that corpse, which I didn't even see. but I still shouldn't. I still should probably tell the police. Because at the end of the day, really, I think it's quite easy for people doing speeches at events such as this, and also when talking about rugby and talking in that anecdotes page at the back of Rugby World, to refer to certain parts of rugby or certain communities of rugby. And that's why I appreciate being asked along to do this so much, because at the end of the day, rugby is a game for all shapes and sizes and creeds and colours. We always push that. But it's a delight to see events like this recognise the reach of rugby goes beyond props and locks and wingers and fullbacks and all of the all the positions in between, everyone in between. It's a sport open equally to the big guy, the little guy, but also to the guy sat watching in the corner, which was always me. Most of my anecdotes aren't very interesting, but I still think it's a valid part of rugby. I want to say thank you very much for having me. I have rambled quite a lot at this point. But I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I'll see you afterwards at the buffet, where I will be also shoving far too many cocktail sausages in my pockets. Thank you very much.
There we are. We're all back. End of the evening. It's ties round head.
Message got through.
Yeah. How many ties have you got around your head at the minute, Ian? He's still on mute, isn't it? No, there he is. Back.
No, I've only just unmuted it. Yeah, I've got 5. I've had to try to find I've had to bushwhack a way through from a microphone. So what we've got here is got How Fife, Campbell's Lang, Ayr, Glasgow Warriors, and Carter.
There's been far too much Howard Fife on this podcast this evening. I'll say that. Chris Fusaro getting mentioned as well by Squidge. I'm not happy with this. This kind of, it's like someone's laid a sleeper cell in our club dinner. I blame Johnny. It's Johnny McGinty's fault.
Has the rum run out though, Ian?
Never.
So that's So yeah, thank you very much to Squidge for that. If you go to Squidge's YouTube channel, his analysis of rugby is absolutely out of this world and incredibly entertaining as well. So I cannot recommend that enough. We also thank Rhona Lloyd, Hollie Davidson, Scott Hastings, and also, of course, Dougie Donnelly for that magnificent speech as well. Don't forget to donate to your local club. Google it, Scottish Rugby Club Finder. You'll find that easy enough. And also donate to my name, this is Dodie as well, if you're able to. We're going to do a final round of the quiz. This is a bonus round. I wasn't going to do this.
Come on.
We were going to do a buzzer round. So
this seems like
there's one point in it, and I feel like we need to do it. So
are we winning?
This is shocking.
Like, here we go. This is the last round. I have got my daughter's keyboard. I have no formal training in piano.
Are you going to play Ailstorm songs on it?
I am going to play. I am going to attempt to play. Now, I play the tuba, but I don't play the piano. So I'm going to attempt to play a theme from a sporting TV show, and I want you to guess what it is. Now, I've not practiced this at all, so let's see how this goes. So, Ian and John, can you shout out Warriors if you think you know what it is? And Sandy, Allen, Rory, what do you want to shout out? Do you want to shout out Mish or Pinball, something like that?
Mish is fine. Let's go Mish.
Mish.
Okay.
Mish.
You ready? Here we go.
Ski Sunday.
Almost.
Warriors.
Yep.
Grandstand.
Is it? That's like Horse of the Year.
No.
Was it? No.
Try again.
Sometimes I sounds like Rawhide, mate.
No one get it?
No.
It's a cricket theme.
Oh, that's why.
Sorry, wait. No, it's not. I like
points
cricket.
Here we go. Right, next one. If nobody gets this one, or if Ian and John get this one, they've got it for the win. So there you go. You have a guess of that?
Warriors, is that Scott Sport in the 90s?
No, it's not Scott Sports.
Mid-90s Scots. No.
You have another go?
Do it again, Cam. Do it again, Cam.
That's getting ridiculous.
Come on. Anyone have a hazard a guess?
Sports scene.
Not sports scene. We've already had sports scene as a guess.
I'm going to put my daft hat on.
Trans World Sport.
That's an excellent guess, Andy.
Kabaddi.
Kabaddi is also a good shout. No, it's not
Loved a
Kabaddi.
bit of Kabaddi. You get Transport Sport, Kabaddi, then the GA, then Serie A football on Channel 4. Those were the days, eh?
You know, I guess no, it's the golf.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's not far off.
Tribute to Dougie.
That's good. Do you want one more? Here we go. Ready?
One more. There's a chance to draw, boys.
Is this a tie break?
This to draw.
Anyone have a guess?
I don't know.
Turn this off. I can't cope with it.
It should be stopped, whatever it is.
That was a ski Sunday. Ski Sunday, yeah. Well done.
Oh God!
You were telling him the answer before. Oh, shocking! I didn't ever see it.
John, East Coast bias.
That's shocking. Mate.
I think that means it's a draw, doesn't it?
I think so.
What a wonderful way to end the
evening.
You
should have just declared us winners in the first place.
Jesus Christ, Rory, you don't know how to pour a pint.
I was hoping to get that one through.
Flake or twirl, Rory. Flake or twirl.
Yeah. Well, we hope you've all enjoyed yourself this evening. We do a regular podcast once a week, and we're going to try and do it by video from here on in. It won't be as chaotic as this, I promise. We'll put all the videos.
I find this easier because I can see if somebody's wanting to talk rather than. I don't like to butt in, you know.
I can see how much you're drinking as well, Ian, so that helps as well.
We need a drink to get through it. So
it's the club dinner. You know what else?
What else would you do exactly? Am
I going to be sitting here drinking a Aperol spritz and I don't know, like reading Sartre?
Just leave it there, Ian. So the bar's open for the rest of the night. No closing time. Carriage is it. Whenever carriages are needed. We do a regular podcast, so if you're interested in that, you can go to scottishrugbyblog.co.uk and find out about that. We are going to put this out as an audio podcast. God knows what that will sound like without this video to accompany it. We'll do that as well next week. You can find, if you want to watch this back, it'll be on our Facebook page, YouTube page. We're on Twitch as well. I thought we'd go with the kids. I feel like a young generation thing on Twitch. See if we can attract anyone. We're the first rugby podcast on Twitch.
As well.
Maybe
only rugby podcast on Twitch.
Jesus Christ.
Only rugby podcast on Twitch, and we've had no views. So I'm going to show you how popular rugby is on Twitch. But we're going to leave you this evening with a magnificent video, and I'll see the guys at the other end of this. But we're going to stop our broadcast after this. This is, as referenced by Dougie Donnelly in his speech, this is the Saturday night sports scene after the 1990 Calcutta Cup win. I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
The World Cup next year, I think the omens are great for us. Terrible waste champagne was sent to the Heriots. Before we go, before we're entirely soaked, thank you, fellas. Thank you, Dougie. It's been a pleasure. In the midst of all of this, I'm going to tell you that in the shops at the end of this week, there will be a BBC video entitled Scotland's Grand Slam. I think you should buy it.
And there we have it. We're going to stop it now. So thank you very much for joining us.